Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate for basic human rights for all people. And I have asked if you would consider writing me in as the next president of the United States of America. I have taken a lot of time to put together some video put here on YouTube for those of you who are my friends and who would care to share them with your friends and, hey, get them all across the country, I'm hoping, just to share my vision with others. But anyway, you hear that, but many of you might be asking, who is Eddie Marcus? And so I decided that it would be good for me and for the basic human rights of all people if we were visible to that degree. And so I'd like to take a little bit of this time and focus on who is Eddie Marcus. Well, Eddie Marcus, to begin with, is an exciting man most of the time. And a lot of times he is pissed. But so are we all. But to get to the crux of it, I'm just a young man like most young men, or middle-aged men, or old men, depending on how you see me. Grew up in an environment that required people to take action on things that mattered to them. And that was the teachings of that day, and I was kind of young, so impressionable. I saw that work, and so I kind of took a liking to it. Young man, you know, go to school like everybody else, come out with pretty good grades, I guess. Only able to go to college because of a musical scholarship. Thank God for that. And I know those of you who get a scholarship to go to school, I know how exciting that is. Especially when your options were get it or get going. Well, anyway, many of us have to get going, and many of us are blessed to get the scholarship. So I got that. My life through college was normal. I was an average student. Loved life. Loved what college life had to offer. Member of the marching band, concert band, because of the scholarship. Loved college life. Loved college life. In fact, I met my first wife while I was in college. She was a few years ahead of me, but we ended up after the first year getting married, and she was in Chicago working, and I'm at the University of Mississippi, going to school, living the life and enjoying it, getting my homework out, growing up. You know what I mean, guys who've been to college, and ladies too. Anyway, having finished my studies at that university, I went to Chicago, wanted to go to Hollywood, wanted to be that actor, that great actor. I've always had that in my blood. Been acting ever since I was been in school, churches, elementary, so on and so forth. But I had this girl who had been committed to me as I did my studies to become a social scientist. And so rather than go out toward Hollywood, I decided to go to Chicago, spend a little time in Chicago, see how life could unfold, maybe go to Hollywood later on. But I got in Chicago and got a job with Veterans Administration, got a job moonlighting, doing entertainment at night. Pretty good, loved it. Caught up in the good life. Taking care of business on the gig in the daytime, making people happy at night, taking in some change. But you know what I found, ladies and gentlemen? In the midst of all of that, I found that there was a lot of unnecessary suffering out there. And it began to trouble me. It took me back to my roots. took me back to where I came from. And all of that which I had been aware of that caused all the pain and suffering that we had to endure while we were living in the South under Jim Crow, under those slavery, real slavery ways. And to see people try on one hand to progress and to see the obstacles that are still there, it makes you want to puke. At least it did me. And so, being of the fiber that if you want it, you can. Because that's what had always happened for me. I believe in me. And whatever loved me in such a way that I had the confidence. But now things had got to change because my focus now had changed from me to all of those who were suffering. Can you believe that? How naive could I be? Taking on the poverty, crime that comes from it, the violence that comes from it, all on the fact that it doesn't have to be that way. All on the fact that it could be different. All on the fact that if I could get the people to see it. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this did not just happen to me to see this. I saw it, but I couldn't understand it. What made me really understand it is that my relationship with my first wife began to deteriorate as I began to be interested in the people as opposed to just focusing in on me, in on us. And I in fact, our relationship ended there. But that doesn't mean, ladies and gentlemen, that all before then I was a good man. Oh, I was okay, man. In fact, I loved my wife. I mean, I loved her in the sense that a man loves his wife. But there have been many times in the sense of a man who has this drive to want to conquer and make love to some of the beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous, fantastic, fine women out there that wants to make love to him. It sometimes can be overcoming. And sometimes it's not a difficult thing. You want it to, and you go for it. So I have no problem admitting that I've cheated on my ex-wife, and I don't think it had anything to do with our separation. However, just for the sake of the record, just for the sake of letting you know that I'm no different than you, and I know that there are those of you to this point in your life who have abstained, and I clap hands for you. But when you do fail, I still clap hands for you. But anyway, here is what I want you to understand. I've come through life, and because of that conviction, my ex-wife is an ex. So what did that do for me, ladies and gentlemen? That made me see something that I had never seen before in the context that it had been delivered to me. I had seen people get divorced every day. I hear about it every day. I heard the percentages of people that get divorced, but it could never happen to me. How could somebody stand before witnesses and say before God that I'm going to be with you come hell or come heaven? We together. And then, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't have to be any major reason, sometimes for incompatibility, whatever, pay, and it's done. So you say, well, wait a minute, there's nothing sacred in that. You're already turned off by the way people are treated and how this stuff happens to them. Then you see something that's supposed to be as sacred as matrimony. Yeah, I know you say you don't supposed to cheat, but in reality, some of us do, and some of us don't mind admitting it, especially when we don't have to cheat anymore. But anyway, you got this going on, and so what do you find yourself? I mean, where do you go from there? what is this supposed to mean? What is this supposed to mean? Think about that for a second. Think about it for a second. So you say, okay, I'll start anew. And for me, I joined the military. Had missed the draft. Got drafted right before I got out of college. But before I got a chance for the induction, which I really wasn't going to go in anyway, but I never got that far because Nixon signed that agreement and the draft was over, the war was over, so I went on with my life. So now I'm finding myself volunteering to go to the Navy, to start anew, to go over in the Persian Gulf. The hostages had been taken. Iran had captured people there. And so I wanted to go because I felt there might be some violence, might be some war. And if so, I wanted to be right in the middle of it. I wanted to save somebody else's life by taking their place and willing to really die in an effort to free these hostages. And another reason is so that my ex-wife could get my death benefit if I were killed. So she could have some change to go with what she had. So just for a moment, she could live a little. So anyway, while in the Navy, and our president, our commander-in-chief, Ronald Reagan, began to go crazy. I mean, I know that there are people who love him. They hold him up almost as a saint. Those who were blessed by his policies. But those who were hurt won't. And there were many who were hurt. And I just couldn't believe here I am in the middle of all this junk, willing to sacrifice. And here is the man who is the CEO of this country, who is willing to exercise XYZ policies that affects people in such negative ways. So I refuse to take orders. And you know, they came to me talking about the oath I took. I didn't understand why you want to bring that up. It didn't matter in the domestic situation. Nobody came to us and said, well, you guys took the oath. No, it didn't matter. Sign the dotted line, play the money. So, I wasn't playing the game. I just refused to take orders. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I ended up getting court-martialed, sent to the Philippines to be locked up. And I want you to know, putting chains on me, hands and feet, walking through the public. Some form of embarrassment, I suppose. But in that process, in that moment, walking between those people, I felt like I was the most precious man on the face of the earth. I never in my life felt so wonderful. And I only tell you this because I was sticking to my heart and I did what my heart says do. And that was the result. And I say that to you that it might be some purpose served in knowing such a testimony. I felt like I was on top of the world. And when I went into that when I went into that institution, everybody said, who is that guy? What is he in for? Word got around. So, you know, naturally somebody walked up to me one day and asked so we sat down and had a conversation. I shared with them a moment, they shared with me, and before the conversation was over, I began to explain to them the significance of what they had gone through. And I explained it in such a way that when they walked away with their heads held high. They walked away feeling proud because I told them the truth that had been hidden from them. And the truth is quite liberating. And they were liberated. And the word got around, so people were talking with me all the time. In fact, I guess the warden didn't like it because I got sent to solitary confinement for doing it. And then I got sent out, ladies and gentlemen. I got sent out to uh, I thought I was leaving to go back to Treasure Island and get discharged from the military. But they sent me to Japan at first with some sealed orders. And when I got on the plane up, I mean the orders up and I read them. They said, "You're going to Yakutka, Japan." And they, on the order says, whatever he does, don't lock him up. He loves it. I'm thinking, what is this? Anyway, I ended up in Japan. Had a nice little stay in Japan. I had some young lady, Japanese, her name was Yashika. We spent an awful lot of time together. She was my friend there. And I wish her well. And anyway, so I stayed there. I remember one night having said, what they sent me to Japan for was to see if they can set me up, to see if they can get junk on me. Because I was talking some real sweet stuff, and God was my power. And you know, when you start talking that stuff like that, the one thing the government want to get on you is some stuff, something that they can use against you to expose, say you're not all you say, this and that and other. But anyway, one night I was hanging in the economy in Japan at a club where we military people frequent, and I was deciding to walk back on the base a little bit late on that, around midnight. And I was accosted by cars stopping with a Japanese, and I guess his wife. They were in the car in the car, so I stopped and I talked to them for a minute. They asked me what was I doing. I told them so and so. So we had a little short conversation, and so the dude asked me if I wanted to make love to his wife. So I'm thinking to myself, why would this guy ask me if I want to make love to his wife? I said, now, first of all, I'd be a fool to go somewhere with these guys. Out in the boonies, out in the dock somewhere, have no place, no idea where, and these suckers kill me. And that's that. On the other hand, why would I go out there when I know this is nothing but a scheme, nothing but the government trying to get a mark on me? So when I do go back to the States, if I'm having some effect with my conversation, they can tell me to shut up by trying to expose some stuff that I did. So what do you think I did? Well, at the time, I needed a little bit of sex. And so I went on and I did it. I made love to the man's wife. And why did I do that knowing what I knew? I did it for this reason. I did it because I wanted to have sex as well as whatever they were trying to do. And I did it because I know if it ever came up where somebody trying to expose me about some junk, nobody could tell the story as clearly as I can tell it. And when I tell it, I want you to know there's no shame in my game because I know who and what I'm dealing with, and I am in charge of this. And so I ended up, make a long story short, being released from the military. And for some people, they asked me while I was at sea if I could just serve on the duty roster and cause a little less stress on some of the guys who had to stand duty if I didn't. And I refused to do it. So rather than, they offered me an other than honorable, not a dishonorable, but an other than honorable separation from the military. And I walked with that as a badge of love. I walked with it as a badge of love, rather than play a part in that program that was being instituted by that President of the United States at that time in the way that it was affecting the lives of so many people. I chose to walk out with an other than honorable separation. Walking out saying, no, I'm not a part of this. Hey, that's Eddie Marcus. Eddie Marcus, the same Eddie Marcus that cheated on his first wife, also cheated on his second wife. Why? Because there is nothing as wonderful and as beautiful and as attractive and as loving and as fine and wonderful as a woman. And sometimes, it's just not all the time, but sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you say, thank you, Jesus. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you don't. But I'm not worried about it. And so life goes just like that. Life goes just like that. That's Eddie Marcus. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this love for people that wanted to change things have brought me this far. I have been on radio stations here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've traveled across the Midwest. I've traveled on the South. I've traveled further north, speaking in street corners and in churches and in flyers and wherever I can get a voice, telling people that you do not have to suffer poverty. Prosperity is the way of life for everybody. It was designed that way, but we have to change our way. I'm just trying to wake people up. I come back, I'm writing flyers and booklets and I'm passing them out. I've got a radio program called Life of Victory Eternal, Love Ministry. I got another radio broadcast called The Moment of Truth. This is the moment for truth. I'm expecting the people to hear the truth and receive the truth and change America overnight or with the first year. But change this country and make it a beautiful nation. I'm expecting it. This is who Eddie Marcus is. And having periodically taken a job because the finances were so tight in my present family that I just wanted to help out some, but I take a low-paying job so I can say at least I wasn't riding on the back so high. I was riding on those that were hurt, because I was hurt too with that low salary. Anyway, I found myself in the 90s, well, running for mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota against Norm Coleman, who ended up being United States Senator from the state of Minnesota. It's been a primary, but he got the nomination, so I did no good in that. I even ran for governor of the state of Minnesota. I ran for United States Senate from the state of Minnesota. And if you ask my president wife, she'll tell you I ran for president every time an election came around. But I say to you, why do you think I would do this? Do I sound like a nutcase? To many of you I do. But the truth of the matter is that I, because of who and what I have learned, because of what I believe that you want, peace, prosperity, and joy, and what I know you deserve it if you do the things that will require it to happen. And I, for some strange reason, know at least a set of things that will do just that. And it appears that nobody else is entering that arena. So I am doing whatever I can, not just for me, but for all of us. The only thing I hate about the rich people is that they are rich at the expense of those that's poor. I don't care how you look at it. It was legal. Whatever you did, it was legal, but you are rich at the expense of the poor. You are rich at the expense of the poor. In the middle class, they trying to get rich, which means they're messing over the poor too. But now you trying to get so much richer, you messing over the poor, over the middle class. Now they don't know what to do. They don't know what to try to hang on to you. Or grab the poor and be empower themselves. But they begging you still, hoping that a Republican Party, hoping that a Democratic Party, somebody would do something to make that connection back to what they are striving for, to be rich and enjoy what richness brings, and not recognizing that all that richness is at the expense of the poor. And so they keep on floating like it doesn't matter. They keep on floating like it doesn't mean a thing. Anyway, I'm aware of this. And I'm still out there shouting out this message. I'm on cable access. I'm running for president. I'm doing all I can to get attention. President 41 Bush, I believe that is who it is, started the war with the Desert Storm. I'm thinking, oh, not my brothers and sisters in America killing my brothers and sisters over there. Now I got to do something. We the people can stop this. There's no need for no war. There's no need for no fighting and killing. Now we can negotiate this thing out. We can do the right thing. We can all become winners, and nobody has to die. I couldn't get anybody to listen. I was working for a property management company. I decided to break the law to see if I could get attention for this cause. I withheld money from the company that I was working for. I went to some people who were late with their rent and told them to tell the management that they paid their rent. And then I was going to report it that I took the rent. They paid it, I took it. So they don't have to worry about paying it. I was giving them a break. I took some money and gave it to some other poor people. I took money and gave it to dope dealers. I took money and gave it to prostitutes. I took money and just did anything to get rid of it. Then I went and turned myself into my company. They didn't want to arrest me, but I would have it no other way. And so we went down to the police station, made the complaint, and turned myself in. They wouldn't take me. They told me to go back home and come back Monday. It was on a Friday, I believe, so they asked me to come back Monday. So I went on back home. And Monday I went back, I was booked, and I began to go through the process. I wanted a jury trial. I wanted to share with the jury what was happening out here in society. Share with the jury what my efforts have been and what I was trying to achieve and what was required in order for it to be successful. And I wanted to give it to them in such a way that they see it, they would say, hallelujah, so glad you finally came. Judge wouldn't let me do that. He come trying to tell me what my defense could be. Anyway, the jury didn't see anything my way. They convicted me. But I didn't care. For some strange reason, I didn't care. I wanted to save those who were poor from being poor. I wanted to save those who were suffering from being victims of that which was poor. So I didn't care what they were doing to me. So I went on to jail. They made me do a few months and then put me on probation for 10 years.